Dun 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 dun. Someday I'll have recorded music and intro video, but today is not that day. Today is, however, January 6th, 2023, and the first Power Lunch live show of the year, which I believe, if my math is correct, makes this the first anniversary of the Power Lunch live show, a show which I created because I didn't want to go through all the work of building a panel show, so I just invited all kinds of interesting people and let the universe sort it out, and sure enough, it turned out to be awesome. So I kept doing it, and it keeps being awesome, so we keep doing it. So for those of you who are not familiar with the show, I have two producers, Serendipity and Random Happenstance, and they put amazing people on the show, and we have fantastic, free-flowing, frolicking conversations. And you're about to see who our guests are. But before that, let me share what I'm doing with you, because you may notice my background's different than usual. What's behind me is my entire Q1 plan, which is booked out day by day. Every day I wake up knowing what my next action is. I did this entirely for myself, but after I explained it to people, they said, "Can you teach me how to do that?" And I said, "Okay, I would like to do that." So I'm doing a workshop on this Thursday. That's the 12th. I think it's 12th. At 5 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be about 2 hours long because it's called the Plan 3 Months in 2 Hours. If it takes longer, we'll run it longer. But plan 3 months in 2 hours, $97, and you will walk out of there with a 3-month plan, day by day, every action planned out. And if you want to get details on that and sign up, you can go to megaconnector.com, which is my new easy-to-remember website. Some of my other stuff going on there is there as well. And enough about me. You want to see who's behind me. Let's see who it is. Ta-da! That way. Okay, so let's do some introductions of people who aren't me. First, we have Bruce Carnohan. Tell us about yourself, Bruce.
Yes, sir. Well, firstly, honored to be in the first luncheon. Thanks for doing that. And honored to share time with Doug and yourself as well. And yes, my proper name is Bruce Carnohan. However, I get called the guy in the blue shirt, and I'm based out of Phoenix area, Phoenix, Arizona. So that's me.
Fantastic. Yeah, it sounds like a Phoenix accent.
Absolutely.
I know my accents.
Right.
And Doug Peterson.
Greetings. I'm actually honored to be on the best show of the year in 2023 so far. So I think that's a pretty high bar.
That's true. You are doing pretty good there.
And I live in Seattle, Washington. I've got 3 adult kids and 2 granddaughters and a wife of over 40 years.
Fantastic.
All right. Cool.
That usually says good things about people when their spouses stay with them for a long time. So, All right. So our first topic we're going to be discussing, Bruce is going to be leading us off with why life to be simpler, faster, better.
Yeah, great. Thank you for allowing me to do that. And the understanding of why I do this goes way back to my childhood. I had a pretty disruptive background, so I was always looking for a simpler way of life because I didn't deal with the discombobulation very well. But my method is actually called Simpler, Faster, Better. And it's a little misnomer because when people see the faster, they think, well, maybe I'm trying to help them cut corners or cut quality. But the way I explain my method is it's 40 plus years of proven tactical theories that they all work. I've done them. And what I find is that I get people, if they simplify what they do first, and then they concentrate on making those things better, then the compounding effect of being simpler and better at a few less vital things actually saves you time. So you do go faster. So simpler, faster, better is kind of a triangle of activities. And the way I apply that is typically I will work in any size of company or individual. And I have another method called process cleanup. And my company is processcleanup.com. And that's what I do. I clean up processes, small, big, messed up, streamlined. It doesn't really matter. I've worked in 6 countries, 40 plus different industry sectors. And so, you know, I have a lot of experience. And so when people say, well, why should I work with you, Bruce? they buy the experience. Bottom line, you can't replace the experience, good and bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to learn from your own mistakes, but it's even better to learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah, I say fail forward fast, right? So that's the other piece of the fast, simpler, faster, better is, if you do fail, then at least try and fail forward so that, it's not backwards. And, but, fail forward fast and do lessons learned as well. A lot of people don't do simple to do structured lessons learned. And that's another piece of my, part of my wave my magic wand is getting people to do lessons learned very often and very simply, and the power from that is amazing. So yeah.
That's the second time I've heard that particular lesson in the last 36 hours. I was watching an interview with someone whose his background is a fighter pilot and now he's a business coach, and he was saying that they debrief
every mission.
They debrief everything, whether it went well or poorly, and most businesses only debrief when it goes badly, which creates a problem because anytime the boss says, "Hey, can I see you in my office?" Oh boy, what did I do this time? As opposed to if you debrief everything, you don't have that like pit of your stomach feeling when it's time to talk to the boss because you must be in trouble. Plus, there's a lot to be learned from what you do right, rather than only focusing on what you do wrong. And so I think that's not to say I do that, but I completely agree that it probably is a thing that I should be doing more of, the effective debriefing.
Well, people convince themselves they don't have the time, but they will always find the time to do it over. So, it's it's human nature. And like you said, if you only do lessons learned on bad experiences, you set up that negative vibe instead of trying to set up what I call a positive jive vibe. If you do it on everything as much as you can. And in fact, I was doing one this morning on a text conversation with somebody, so it was interesting. And I was trying to say to them, hey, look, I want you to be successful in your business. That's why I'm doing that, even though they felt uncomfortable, me pushing them to, look at the lessons learned from yesterday. So anyway.
Yeah, it is powerful. I think also one thing I've discovered in this experience. So everything that went into this, I already knew for 2 years, just never actually sat down to do it. And it was basically the last 2 weeks of December were very frustrating and discouraging. And it got me to the point of like, okay, I've got to make a plan because I wandered through the last quarter, 4 quarters, 8 quarters, 10 quarters, sort of wandered. And like, if you ask me, what did you do last summer? I'm like, I kind of did some things, I guess. Yeah. And I go back and listen to old podcast interviews to figure out what I was doing at that time because it's what I focused on. But by doing this, I can say, okay, these are the projects I'm actually working on and can be intentional. And one of them I put on the plan and then wiped off the board. Like 4 days later, I'm like, I don't really want to do that. I don't think it's going to make money. I don't think it's going to give me the results I want. I'm not excited about it. And I could consciously do that because I could see it. And I also realized I could do twice as much as I expected to be able to. I made a list of everything I wanted to do. I'm like, I'm going to have to prioritize these because I know I'm going to have to cut half of them. And then I actually laid it out as just doing 3 things a day. Yeah. By the end, I'm like, there's 198 slots, 3 a day for a quarter. And I only had 113 actions. I'm like, wait, I've got like 75, 80 action slots left. Oh, I could do all this again almost. Right. Because I'd actually planned it out and strategized it.
But you know what, Michael, you raise another interesting point. If you don't have contingency time in your schedule, then you're always chasing, right? So yeah, it's good to have white space in your schedule because things that you can't control will happen and you have to react. So, and I wanted to say hi to Paul and Chad. They've joined in the comments. So, hey guys.
Yep. Yeah, we actually have, we have the most viewers we've had all year, but no, we actually have more live viewers than we have for most of the episodes last year. So I think it's this whole blue thing we got going on. People are,
I think it is. Yeah,
the blue and the red and we got a whole color vibe going on. So hello, listeners. Feel free to throw questions in the comments or thoughts or ideas. Doug, you have any thoughts on simpler, faster, better you want to throw in?
Well, I think that makes total sense. Is failing faster. I heard one mentor of mine say, if you don't fail at least 50% of the time, you'll never know what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm.
And that practice makes better, not perfect. So you definitely want to try stuff and not worry about being perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, those are things that we have to unlearn, because we want to have it look good from the beginning, but we're learning something new.
Yep.
But no, I agree with everything he's saying. It's tremendous. And, you really do need to simplify. And that's part of getting your priorities straight.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And to your point about not trying to make it, to your point, not trying to make it perfect, is a lot of things that I did, because I'm very ready, fire, aim, because I know I'll never be perfect, so I kind of gave up on it. But I throw things together like, this seems fun to do, like this show. I put it together because I like talking to people. This seems fun to do. Let's give it a shot.
Right.
And I completely expected it to fail in 2 months. I thought that by the end of February, I was gonna be like, okay, I'm so sick of these random conversations with whoever happens to wander into my show. And a year later, I'm like, I can't. And this is fantastic. I love it. But it's so simple, and I'd see so many processes people were teaching, be like, the 73-step process to launch a podcast. And how did I launch this? I got StreamYard, and I got StreamYard, and I created a Google form, and I went out to Podmatch and other places, says, hey, who wants to come on the show here?
Right.
And people started coming on the show, and we started talking, and I got to meet them, like both of you. I'm meeting for the first time here on the show. So a lot of people probably want to pre-interview and want to, get to know you, and what are the questions going to be? I'm like, I don't have the attention span for that. I just do stuff. And a lot of it, I mean, some of it has not worked, but a lot of it's worked really well. And the stuff that doesn't work, nobody sees anyway, because that's part of not working. It's not like I attract 100,000 people in the audience and then it crashes. It's nobody watches it. That's why it didn't work. So nobody knew I didn't do it well.
Well, Carol just hopped in as well. So good comment, Carol. So, and Doug, to your point, it's very interesting, the whole concept of perfect. And I had a young lady leader once come to me and say, Bruce, perfect is the enemy of the good. We're good. We know we're good. We're never going to be perfect. So, stop criticizing us for not being perfect, but praise us for when we're good. And so I learned perfect is the enemy of the good the hard way from a lady leader who helped me understand a lot about, giving recognition rather than criticism. So, absolutely great point, Doug.
Yeah, and how many of us grew up with parents saying, if it's worth doing poorly?
No.
You're not going to be great when you get started. And that it's better to try and to fail than to fail by not trying.
Right.
So,
and it's interesting because your 50% number you talked about also applies to procrastination. I used to be the worst procrastinator on the planet, and I had a pretty progressive, forward-thinking leader that I used to drive crazy because I used to procrastinate. And he took me one side one day and he said, Bruce, to meet all my requirements, you only need to be 51% right. And he said, to be world class in my book, you only need to be 60% right. So stop procrastinating. I got you. If you can be about 51% right, awesome. If you can be 60%, you're going to be in my world class book. So his name was Chaz. I've never forgotten that. And he taught me to get off procrastination, which is, just cycling around trying to be perfect when good is good enough, So that guy helped me a lot. He changed my trajectory in my life when I was in my 30s because, awful procrastinator. Terrible.
Yeah. It reminds me of the 18-40-60 rule. Do you guys know that one?
I don't know that one.
So when you're 18, you're worried about what everybody thinks of you. When you're 40, you don't care as much what people think of you. When you're 60, you realize nobody's been thinking of you. Quit trying to impress somebody with something else you're not.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I love that one. Can I borrow that one? That's pretty
you can have it. I got it from somebody else.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Good job, Doug.
Yeah, and to what you're saying before, procrastination is a joke I saw on Facebook that I used to be an amateur procrastinator, but then I went professional.
I was off the charts professional. I was so stuck in
You were a
analysis.
procrastinator.
Oh, yeah, I was a pro. Yeah, I was so stuck in analysis to paralysis. It was terrible. But but the other difference there is, when you've got a leader that's confident and actually sees your abilities and will support you, right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what made the difference. I mean, he just set up that kind of security blanket for me, and the other thing he said, Bruce, as long as you don't kill somebody or kill yourself, I'm okay. Those are the only things I don't want you doing.
As I tell my wife sometimes, you don't work in an emergency room. If someone has to wait 15 minutes, no one's going to die. She works in property management.
Right.
And she puts all kinds of stress on herself. I'm like, you can just take 15 minutes to go, somewhere else and get yourself together. No one's going to die if they don't get their keys until 10:15. Like she holds herself to such a high, such a high standard. But Doug, to your point about what people are watching is not only are people not judging your mistakes, because I don't have a boss, I work for myself, because I'm really bad at working for other people. But I'm very much in public. I'm on social media. I have an audience. I don't even necessarily know exactly who's in my audience. There's people I know regularly, like actually Chad and Paul and Carol. I know them all quite well. But there's a lot of people out there kind of on the periphery who I'll occasionally see, or I don't even know they're watching me. Right. And so that can lead to a bit of paranoia of like, well, I don't want to put something out that, I don't want to put something out that's not very good or have them judge me or whatever. But what I found is, and this is extremely important for anyone starting out, the more honest I am, the more raw it is, just kind of going live, walking down the street, messy hair, whatever. Not that I ever have messy hair, but if I ever did, walking down the street, shooting a video, people respond well to that. It feels organic. It feels like they know you. And it's funny because I go out of my way to share the challenges I have and let people know, when things aren't going great. And not like a year ago, I was having this problem and now everything's wonderful. But like a week ago, I was having a problem and I'm still in this challenge space. And like, last week I was having a really tough time because a whole bunch of things are going on. I just brought COVID back from Florida and shared it with the family because, Christmas time of sharing.
Oh, yay. Good.
on top of everything else going on. And I shared that. And so many people came out, and, people I don't talk to very often were there like, how can I help you? A couple of my friends who are coaches are like, talk to me. I've got this thing. I'll give you a free session and help you get this squared away. And they're all stepping up to help. And this is me being like, here I am, my weakest point, and everything's not working. And they're like, cool, how can we help you? Because people want to help if you're not putting on this facade of, I am Mr. Perfect and everything I do is amazing, and you citizens can benefit at the feet of my mastery. Because then they want to take you down a notch when you're on a pedestal. When you're with them, they're like, we're all together. How can we help you? And if you're surrounded by people who are not supporting you, find new friends. If you do have people tearing you down, there's this button on Facebook. It says unfriend. It is the best utility they've ever put on there. It's life-changing. Use it regularly and liberally, and it'll make your life better.
Right.
To your point, Michael, there's a quote that I really like, which is, champions are rarely chosen from the ranks of the unscarred. So you're going to have some scars. In fact, I've met people, and I'm sure you have over your careers, and I'm not working with anybody that hasn't failed.
Yep.
Because they haven't had to deal with adversity.
Yeah, it's a great point, Doug. And it's funny because I've been working with a lady entrepreneur in Malaysia and her husband, and she was saying to me, well, number one, how do you stay passionate about what you do? So I shared a few stories. And then she said, well, you mentioned that you'd failed a few times. So she said, what does that look like? It was a great question. And it caused me to go take a look and actually, because I have a little analytical in my framework, I actually put a bar graph together of, my career when it was doing this, and then the plateau, and then when I tanked, and then it was kind of like this, free flowing wave for spanning 50 years of my working life. And it was a great exercise, because then I said to her, hey, I was doing great, and then I tanked, and then I had to start all over, and then I was doing great, and then I tanked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was able to identify some significant cratering, bottoming out, severely tanking periods in my life where literally I had to start over. I was broken twice, big time. So yeah, so I love the scarring. Hadn't thought of it that way, Doug. So I might add a little scar symbol to my bar graph.
Yeah, I did that actually when I was down in Florida. Carl Gould was one of the speakers there, and he had us do this exercise of drawing the point, high and low points in your life. And the interesting thing was the low points were like down spikes, and then a lot of middle and above the baseline, and then some up spikes. Right. Well, I looked down, like the down points were actually very narrow. This was bad for 2 months, and then things got good. And then this was bad for a month, and then 3 years of pretty decent. And we look at like what was below the zero line. Not much of it and I think that's true for most people. Like you remember that 2 months intensely.
You do.
But it's when you actually so that's really like what, like March 15th to April 4th. That was only like 3 weeks. Oh, that wasn't that bad. I mean, unless you're in prison for 9 years, in which case that might have been a fairly long, might be a long low point.
But even if you've been in a rough spot for a year, and then you feel like you're in that spot again for a week, the feeling is just as intense as the one you've endured for a year, even though you got out of it in a week and you go, oh, that felt the same. And it's not the same. It only felt that way for a week.
Yep. Well, sometimes even worse because it's that, like, I thought I was out of this and now I'm back here. And, I thought I beat this dragon. I thought I killed the vampire, and then the vampire rises up again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I
thought my character was built. Why am I building it again?
I've already improved myself. Didn't I finish that process?
Yeah. It's funny. My bar graph showed my worst, and I'd actually forgotten on the other end, Doug, to your point, how long my biggest cratering point was actually 4 years, from 2009 to 2013, when the economic crash happened here in the USA. And so on the other side, I'd actually overlooked how long I was in that, where I would literally do cleaning windows, yard work, taking out trash to earn enough money to pay the rent on my condo, So yeah, you get perspective either way, how short and how long, but it's both equally as valuable, so.
Yep. So Doug, I'm going to have you grab the helm and tell us about your topic, which is mastering personal and business cash flow.
So I've spent over 20 years doing executive coaching and mentoring, and I reached a stage in my life where I wanted to make a bigger impact on people than just helping them with their business. And I looked for a huge problem. And I think the easiest way to find a big problem is look back at problems you had yourself. Having been self-employed most of my life, the vast majority, managing money and having enough and being an entrepreneur and dealing with the ups and downs and being married and trying to be on the same page when my parents and her parents weren't on the same page was a big stressor. And one of the biggest stressors was just not fighting about money, but just leaving things hanging. I'd really like to do that. Well, we really can't afford it. Well, those are both opinions. There's no fact behind it. So in 1996, I wrote a program, and it was this Financial Freedom of Fantasy. And I'm not a financial planner. I don't sell any products. I don't manage the investments, and I don't do financial plans. So what do? I help people learn where their money's going and become intentional and proactive at deciding where your money is going to go before you spend it, build emergency funds, get out of debt faster, and do the same thing with the business. And the same dynamics happen with business partners. They're not on the same page. They set a budget in January and they're 50% off in June. And what my program does is adjusts your plan real time, and you can see real time where you are. So on the 25th, you're not spending more money. You're saying, yeah, that can wait till next week. But most people don't see that till the end of the, anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks after the end of the month when they close the books, or at their quarterly planning, or at their yearly planning. And so it's really a change, knowing where you stand, knowing you have enough, and spending all the money for the month before the month even starts. Now the conversation between couples and business owners goes from we can't afford it or you're spending too much to what do we need to take that out of? Because we have assigned every bit of all of our money, excluding retirement, because that's already assigned, to a job. So that's primarily what I do. I also help increase credit scores. I've been called a marriage counselor many, many, many times, both in business and people that aren't married. And it's really satisfying because I have people say, well, I ask how much time they spend because I want to show them that this is efficient. It's really efficient. And the answer is, well, should I include worrying?
Right.
Waking up in cold sweats, sweating payroll, all that kind of stuff. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
And so you say system, is this like a technology system or a technique or a habit, or what kind of system is it?
Yeah, well, actually I left out a part. I built it based on Excel in 1996.
Okay.
And it was too much work. And it didn't work. And I even quit doing it. But then with apps, programs came out, and one I use is called You Need a Budget. And it's a lot like anything else. Most of us use 1 to 2% of Excel, maybe 5%, maybe 10 at the most, but it'll do a ton of stuff. And we also have a paradigm and a belief of what you can do or how you should do it, because that's the way we've always done it. So most of what I do is behavior change. The tactical stuff is easy and people can do it, but they don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. They don't know where to set boundaries. So I use YNAB as a third party. I'm not affiliated with them at all. If there's a better one, I'll switch. But they do a great job. There's no ads. It's $100 a year. You can have multiple budgets. It's really useful. And I want to correct myself there. As soon as I say budget, it's kind of like diet. What we're really doing is creating a spending plan.
Right.
Here's all the money I have, and I'm going to assign it to stuff.
Yeah,
it's easier. Go ahead.
I'm probably one of the few people who hears the word budget and thinks positively about it, because I've used a budgeting strategy, and like most things, I've made one up myself because I couldn't find one that worked. But I've used a budgeting strategy that I've never been able to teach anyone else because it's very much built around me. But it creates that confidence of I can look. It uses a spreadsheet, basically I don't even know what you call it, but it uses a spreadsheet that's everything's in order and it adds and subtracts and has a running tally. So I can be like, okay, what happens if I make an extra $200 here, and what happens if we pay this bill a week later? And I did it because my first business was wildly successful, except for never making money. So it was always, pinching every penny. And I had to figure out, it was a retail store. So I averaged $110 a day in sales, in top line revenue. So I could then do the math that it would assume $110 a day and then say, all right, so I can't pay this bill Thursday, but I should be able to pay it by Tuesday, and adjust the dates, resort. And suddenly I had like this vision of the future. And I've been using it ever since. And so I can now look at that and say, okay, well, this is tight, or I need to go drive 4 more hours of Uber to cover the difference, or find another client, or whatever. But I can immediately game out, this is where I'm short and this is where I'm not. And I imagine that your system is probably more robust than what I cobbled together in Google Sheets. But just the power of, like, when I hear budget, I think security, because it means there's things I have systematized that our bills are planned out, so I don't think about them. And it took me a few years to convince my wife to not raid that account, because it is planned. We put in X, we take out X. If you're like, oh, I need groceries, I'll take out $100. The system falls apart. But once we locked it in, I don't have to worry about what pays the mortgage. I don't have to worry about what pays the light bill, because that is black boxed. And so when I think budget, I think like, I don't worry about that. I don't worry about that. I just worry about, the variables that are around it to make sure it happens.
Yeah. And what you've done intuitively is moved from checkbook budgeting, which is, do we have money in the account? Yeah, I guess I can buy something. To actually being very intentional and deciding, where's our money already committed to? Where do we want to spend it? And you can even not look at your checkbook balance when you do that. And the
Yep.
peace of mind, as you know, from moving from I'm pushing that out 3 days and I'm already late, to I've got 3 months worth of reserves in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And I have cash. And people operate completely different when all of a sudden they have 30,000 cash in the bank than when they had 4,000 and they're spending 12,000 a month, and they're paying their credit cards, which they bought stuff 27 to 57 days ago. Even though they're paying it on time, there's already 27 days built up toward the next bill. So they're living on next month's paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
There's another thing I didn't want to mention too. The word budget is a projection. And that's all it is. So the difference between a spending plan, even though I use a program called You Need a Budget, it only allows you to spend money or allocate money you have. So if you want to do something else, you've got to take it from somewhere or add money or go into debt. Those are the only 3 options.
Mm-hmm.
But let me take us sideways. Is your fighter pilot Ed Rush?
Hmm?
The
No, it's
No, that's all right. Ed's a friend of mine. He's amazing.
okay. That wasn't
I don't know how many fighter pilot coaches there are, but he's
Luke.
a good
I think his name is Luke something.
Oh, okay. Skywalker.
Yeah, it wasn't Skywalker.
Oh, okay.
A different pilot named Luke. Yeah.
Funny.
But that's but yeah, having that security, and the other thing I've been doing is I call it squirrel budgeting. That I have little reserves here and there. So, because things go wrong. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur early stage, so far more things go wrong than right. But then things go wrong. Okay, so we have 4 lines of defense before we're actually broke, because I squirreled away $100 a week into this account when it was going well, and I put away $1,000 over here when things are going well, and then when things go bad, I'm like, okay, so first we have to pull out of this hole, and then I pull it out of here, and then I got a little bit over here. And so instead of when the account hits 0, we're out. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? I've set up these, and part of it I think comes from my ADHD of like I can't keep track of things, and I'll regularly be like, oh, surprise! I didn't realize I forgot about that. So let me leave more cushion, so when I do make a mistake, there's more things to crash through before we hit the ground.
Right. But if I may, to tie some of those conversations together, which are very fruitful, on the recovery side, so you do get into trouble sometimes. What I found, and this is usually where I start to get people to gain confidence in my method, simpler, faster, better. What I love doing is getting a small group or even a bigger group to think about, where can I save $1 a day? Right. Back to your little and often theory, your plan behind you, Michael, and all of that. And some of the things you said, Doug, about making sure that, you have what you need before you go buy something. You can actively engage the creative thinking of the entire team. And it can be as simple as, hey, guys and gals, let's figure out if we all saved $1 a day. So let's do the simple math. 10 people, right? $10 a day. $50 a week. I mean, that starts to add up. So, and you can kind of have fun with it as well. So I love to do either let's do $1 a day campaign and just get the creativity going, or save a minute a day. Or if people are up for it, do both. Let's see if we can save $1 a day and a minute a day. And it is unbelievable the amount of creative, simple, logical or illogical, because you haven't thought of them, things that they come up with. And hey, we can do this, we can do that. So again, that's you can't overlook the simplicity of that simple understanding and what the simple mathematics will prove to people as well. Because when you get into millions or hundreds of thousands, people get confused with those numbers because they're not what they're used to dealing with. But so yeah, if you do a campaign to save $1 a day or a minute a day or both, I find those they're amazingly fun, and it's unbelievable what the teams will come up with as well. So I don't know if that helps.
And along those same lines, as I interviewed someone a few months ago who's a millionaire now, and about, I think wasn't that long ago, 10 or 15 years ago, started putting away $100 a week into an investment fund, not like a mutual fund, but savings account, because eventually he knew he'd find some opportunity that if he had the cash, he'd be able to buy into, and it would turn into an asset and it would grow. But he had no assets. He put $100 a week into this, and he did it for a year. And after a year, he had $5,000, and he ran into someone who said, "Hey, there's this property that's available, rental property, and if you can put up 5, I'll put up 5, and that'll give us enough to get into it." And so he did that, and then it started generating revenue, and the revenue it generated went into his investment account, which he then used for the next thing. So he had $30,000 to buy into the next deal, and the next.
Right.
But all it was $100 a week, which I mean, some people who, if someone's making $7.25 an hour, then that's a gazillion billion dollars. But if they can put away $20 a week, or if they can do, 3 Instacart jobs a week, or Uber, Uber's my ultimate backup plan. So when the business isn't firing, I don't say what bills am I not paying. I say how many more hours of Uber am I driving this week, and cover the difference. But you go out and drive Uber for 4 hours a week, makes about $25 an hour. There's your $100. Do that for a year. You got $5,000, and you can probably find some place to deploy $5,000 and leverage it and get the ball rolling. Get the ball rolling that way without having people like, where do I get $5,000 to start?
Right. Well, the other more important thing actually is saving a minute per person per day, because time is the only non-recyclable commodity on the planet. Right? You can recycle money, you can recycle resources, you can recycle stuff, but you can't recycle time. So that is usually the bigger asset to go after, because that is not recyclable or returnable. Once this second's gone, it's gone. You ain't getting it back. No matter how much technology or apps you have, it ain't there anymore. It's gone.
that is a good point too.
So the saving a minute per day per person has a massive impact, more so than the cash does or the money. So anyway, just a sidebar on that.
Doug?
And on top of setting aside money, which is great, you just gave it a job. The job is it's going to be used for something else than just spending. That's great, but that's also just saying, all right, let's just take some of it and put it here. My approach is to decide what's important, look at all your expenses, look at your infrequent expenses. Very few people save for car repairs, and it costs $150 a month unless you've got a Mercedes or something, or a BMW, just to maintain a good used car. I've tracked it for years. Christmas, vacations, license tabs, yard maintenance, home maintenance. All these add up typically to 18 to 22% of your take-home income. And people aren't setting that aside so that when it happens, here we are in January, come summer, I'll have about $2,500 to clean up the yard if I want to. If I want to get some help, or if I want to buy some things. So having those reserves set up like that, what we're really doing is saying, let's fund what's important to us. And now I can also see that, boy, we're spending way more than I want to going out. Or, we spend $1,000 a month on groceries, but we had 2 months at $1,400. Do we need to raise our grocery plan, or do we need to stop doing that?
Right.
So anyway, it gives you clarity and gives you visibility. And so now it's not, when people, sometimes when they meet me, they say, so you're going to tell me what I can spend and what I can't spend. And I say, no, I'm going to show you where everything's going. And you're going to go, oh, I don't want to spend that for television. I'm spending $380 a month for television, and my dog's costing me $650 a month. In 10 years, I can buy a really nice Tesla if I get rid of the dog. But I'm not suggesting you get rid of the dog. If the dog gives you joy, I don't care what you spend. I just want you to do it on purpose. That's the real key.
Well, and the cool thing with that is the choices, right? Ultimately, people, and when you've been around the block a few times, which we all have, people will ask you things like, well, what's your definition of freedom? Freedom to me is the choice, making those choices, right? If you can make them in a more calculated or safer or more secure way, that's awesome, right? So So your approach, Doug, is to me is a very healthy way to improve the healthy decision making that I can make or not, right?
And with your spouse, you're both now have complete transparency. You know how much you have in your going out budget, your your any entertainment, groceries, whatever it is. In fact, we had groceries and wine in the same category when we started, and we said, "All right, it's the 28th. We need groceries and wine, and they're competing with each other. What are we going to get?" And this wine's on sale, so we said we need a separate one. We need to decide this is how much we're willing to spend on that. This is how much we're willing to spend on that, and it just clarifies things.
Yeah, and I'm sure you still have plenty of wine whenever you want to.
We do. We did have to steal from the meals and entertainment budget to cover Christmas because we had so many people over, and we had more groceries and more more wine.
But what a joy that is, right? Being able to, I mean, that's just the best, right? What a great decision and use of your resources.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've found is one of the biggest leaks in our budget is food. Because if you don't plan, your $100 grocery budget very quickly becomes a $500. We can feed our family on $150 a week on the grocery store, but once we go out to we order pizza or like I don't want to cook or I don't know if we have anything, we didn't get out to the grocery store. Well, now we're spending $60 on one meal instead of $150 on a week of food for the whole family. And you do that 3 times. Now you've spent more than the grocery budget on 3 meals, and that's only 3 days.
Yeah. And here's what happened to us that we never did before is it's now the 25th, 27th. We've got $60 in the grocery budget. We kind of want to, by the way, we spend more, but I include laundry soap and dish soap, kind of all the stuff you normally buy at the grocery store. And we have our family over every week. And so we have a budget of $1,100 for the month. But when we get down to $50 or $40 and there's 5 days left or a week left, well, we still want money for vegetables and fresh stuff. We actually started looking through our cabinets.
Yeah, eat what you got.
Freezer. We had plenty of food, and we don't throw out expired food anymore. We used to throw out a bunch or find something 4 years old in your freezer that you probably could eat, but you might not want to. So again, it's back to awareness. Most people find they save anywhere from 10 to 20% of what they were spending when they're aware of it. And they also find things like subscriptions. And when you've got Amazon, Zelle, Apple Pay, Venmo, and they all come through as just that. You don't even know what you bought.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's the other one of the things that bugs me about it. I mean, our total subscription budget is maybe $35. So it's nothing that's breaking the bank, but it does bug me when I'm going through and reconciling the budget, and it's like Amazon Video $5.95, Amazon Video $9.99, Amazon Video $12.20. Like, what are these things?
Hey, I have a quick improvement for that. I just recently went to Netflix because everything's included. So I got rid of all those extra little, Amazon movie charges here and there that, like you said, they creep up on you. You do a couple a month or whatever it is, and before you know it, it's a chunk of change. So
we don't pay for individual movies, so I look like a millionaire.
I was, and maybe bad habit, and that's okay. But yeah, since I been on Netflix in the last 4 weeks, I've not bought any additional media at all. So yeah, there's a charge for Netflix, and I'm not an ambassador for Netflix. It's just that somebody said to me, hey, if you want a more controllable way, just do Netflix and don't do the add-ons with Amazon. So that's what I've been doing. So
it is. And that is the thing that our internet is, I think, $70 a month, but you need internet. That's like a basic utility. That's how we're talking to each other. So so that's a house utility. And then our subscriptions are, I said, I think a total less than 30. And it gives me access to an amazing array, far more than 120 used to get you on, far more than 120 used to get you on cable, and all on demand, and anything we want, whenever we want. And so it is, it is. But yeah, the thing is, when you subscribe to something for one show and you're done with the show, you have to remember to unsubscribe from that service.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like renting something forever.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's what you are doing. You are renting it forever, and their terms and conditions are really well designed so that they automatically repeat as the default and the consent that you give. So that's the other watch out. And I'm guilty of that myself. You know, I'll do something and then I forget that the default is an automatic, you know, monthly, quarterly, or whatever renewal, and I get caught all the time. So yeah, just know that those companies are smart. The default is going to be automatic renew and not discretionary renew. So it's worth going and looking at. And then the other thing I find, particularly with credit card companies, is go negotiate. I mean, I just negotiated a 12-month interest-free deal again, and you know, and they said they wouldn't do it, and I said, okay, well, I'll find somebody who will. I've been a customer since 2013. Is that really what you want to do? And in the end, I got a supervisor that said, no, we can do that. And I said, okay, well, let's do it. So that can make a big difference as well. If you know, and there is a place, I think, for cash flow balancing for interest-free credit cards, but not if you're paying high rates of interest. I don't condone that. But
yeah, I use that in a debt reduction strategy to, first of all, help people lower their utilization rates.
Yeah.
Even if they're paying 0 on one and 28% on another, if you've got a 90% utilization rate on one card, it's throwing you way off. Whereas if you have the same amount of debt and 20% on multiple cards, your credit score is about 60% higher. So I do a phased approach where we get your credit score up, go out and get you some zero interest cards, get your credit score up higher, get you more zero interest cards, and move it from a 28% or 22% rate to effectively 2% a year. But you also have to know where your money's going and set aside money to pay it.
Right.
You know, there's a reason you got into debt.
Yeah. A question about the debt utilization. So is it your total debt to your total available, or is it per card?
Well, first of all, on one card, your utilization rate is the amount you owe, $5,000, against your limit, which is 10.
Yeah.
So you have a 50% utilization rate. But when you go on to something like Credit Karma or any credit site, they say your utilization rate is 30%. Well, one card has 95% and all the rest have none, or something like that, if the math works, right? And you're just killing yourself with about 50 points of utilization on your credit score, or 50 points in your credit score. So we want to look at that. We want to look at.
So it's better to have them evenly spread than to be all stacked up in one card?
So it's better to do them. So I do a phased approach. So we make them, let's say that you've got a bunch of debt and you're averaging about 70%, and some of them are at 90.
Hypothetically, this is
and maybe one of them is a free interest one that's got a pretty high balance, but it's at 70, it's at 90%. Well, we're going to pay down that zero interest one, so they all get to 70, or they all get to 60, or they all get to 50. We're going to look at what assets you have. Do you have a paid off car that you can refinance at 2 or 3% or 4%? Whatever we need to do to reduce it. And then once it's reduced, the first phase, we wait at least 3 months. So don't apply for credit cards week after week. You want to wait at least 92 days, because that'll help keep your credit score higher. Then you go get 2 or 3 more balance transfer cards, but never transfer more than 30%. Then when they all get down to 30%, some that you're paying on and some that you're got free, 0% interest for a year, which is 3% up front, averages 2%. Then you start getting more cards, leaving the others at 30, paying the minimum amount, and start getting those reduced. So it ends up being much, much faster than the snowball approach, pay the one with the smallest balance, or pay the one with the highest interest rate. This speeds it up about 5 to 10 to 15 times.
Awesome.
Okay. And so to lower them all together and then improve your credit so you're able to get more 0% cards, transfer to those zero cards. And
but there is, a credit analysis to do that. If you've got a whole bunch of lates and derogatory remarks, those stay on for years. It's not going to make a big difference because you've not managed your debt well. And it doesn't have anything to do with can you pay it off. It has to do with how have you managed it in the past.
Yep. But
here,
if hypothetically somebody had some fairly high credit card bills but had been paying them on time, then it would be, hypothetically, this isn't me, it's me. I'm talking about me. So pay them all down together and then use that to get 0% to spread that out and
pay them down so the utilization rates are equal.
Right.
So you may have one that's higher and you pay minimum payment on all of them except that one you throw more at.
Okay.
Now here's another tip though, Michael, to help you increase and anybody to increase their credit score. The credit agencies decide what your utilization rate is as soon as your statement closes. Now, I already mentioned that you're usually paying your statement amount or as much as you can 3 weeks later, right? But let's assume you can at least pay what's owed and preferably pay the whole balance. But if you can pay what's owed when it closes, or even half of what's owed when it closes, pay down as much as you can right before it closes. So let's say it closes on the 8th, you pay it today, and then you're going to have a couple days charges. And then make sure, because those are going to be due in 3 weeks, make sure you cover those. And now everything that's reported to the credit card company is lower utilization. And since I pay mine off every month, when you look at my credit score, it's about 820 and the highest is 850. And it says 0% utilization rate. And it's just a system. This is not a lot of work. You put in a system and you go, it's time. You pay it. And once you build up the reserves, it's completely painless because we're giving every dollar a job. And what this program does, since you're only spending money you have, it sets aside money for the credit card bill. So any day of the week, assuming you've started out with paying your credit cards off, not just the amount due, any day of the week, you can pay off your credit card if you want. And because we're paying them before the statement date, I'm making 2 payments. Doesn't take long. Takes seconds. You're covered. And it's stress-free.
Well, the other flip side of that, Doug, is, I only use 2 credit cards, but purposefully. One I use to earn airline miles, and the other one I use to earn hotel points. And utilize the point system or mile system as much as you can as well. Because,
I teach a program on that called travel hacking.
Oh, cool.
I've got 19 cards. I only averaged using 3 or 4 for business and personal. Usually about 4. My wife has one. I have one. I have business, personal, and then I have Costco card. So I guess 5. But we do hit the minimum spend, get the airline miles, put it in a drawer. 92 days later, you do it again, hit the minimum spend. I've got 1.2 million airline miles.
Awesome.
Just from managing my cash flow. Now, there are some, like Alaska Airlines, where you have a $75 fee up front.
Right.
Southwest is going to have a fee up front of $69 or $99. American will give you 50,000 points. You do a 3,000 minimum spend, and you don't get charged the first year. So at 12 months, you get billed because you're using my system. You know that charge is coming up because you put it in. Or even if you get billed and they mail it to you, you have 30 days to call them up and say, I'm going to cancel the card. Why? You know what? I don't want to pay the fee. Sometimes, like you said, they'll say, oh, well, do you want to keep the card? If we waive it, sure. But when you look at your credit score, number of accounts makes a difference. You want to have 10 or more accounts. If you just had a car loan, it goes off your credit when you pay it off. If you had a house, it goes off your credit. Even though you spent 28 years paying off your house, it's no longer showing you a 28-year credit history. So as much as people, we want to only spend money we have. If you do that, doesn't matter how many credit cards you have. And like I said, my credit score is high. It will take a dip initially when you go out and get 3 new cards. And I've gotten 6 at once. We're going on to Australia, and my son flew all the time. And I said, crap, I got 15,000 minimum spend to hit, in 3 months. Can you do about 5? And he goes, sure. I'll just pay for some airline tickets. So lots of strategies there. Do the same thing with cash. Right now, there's a Chase card out there. If you can spend $6,000 in 3 months, they'll give you $900.
Oh, wow.
There's no annual fee.
Yep. Yeah, Capital One Spark. When I got that.
Oh yeah, it's Capital One does it. This is a Chasing Plunts Business or something.
Yep.
Mhm.
You just go on the internet. You don't have to have me help you. But people that want to build up a really good system where it's slow and steady wins the race. We'd like to travel around the world a couple times. We'd like to be able to take our family to Australia. It's out of our reach. I took my son and my wife and myself, and my other son was getting married to an Australian, and I performed the wedding.
Oh,
I'm
cool.
an international officiant. Thank you very much. Yeah, kind of a big deal. Anyway, we got to Australia for the three of us for about $400.
Yeah,
Round
that's
trip.
amazing.
Wow, that's pretty good. So we are coming to the end of our time, as it is 3 o'clock here and whatever time it is there. But this has been great, as always. My producers did an amazing job of bringing the right people on the show who should be here. So we're going to give each chance to have a final thought. Doug, you're first. Your final thought, which could include how to get in touch with you if you like.
Okay. Well, my final thought is if you don't put effort into creating what you want, you'll put even more effort into coping with what you get. So let's decide what's important, what are priorities in your life, and what do you want to work on. And Paul, I saw you noticed you had a couple of questions. I'd be happy to answer those, but I don't think I can do it now. So all you'd have to do is go to schedulewithdoug.com. It'll bring up my calendar. It'll show my email address, my website, and my phone number. That's all you need. Schedulewithdoug.com.
Schedulewithdoug.com. Very good. And
okay, I have two final thoughts. I have a plug for the Phoenix East Valley area. I'm a LinkedIn local host in person with Mary Payne Brandt, and we have our first event being hosted at the Better Business Bureau on February 21st from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. So if you're in the East Valley cities, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, Gilbert, or Goodyear, just hit me up on direct messaging through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is my primary platform. And my other final thought is, particularly on LinkedIn, go make sure you look up everything that's under somebody's contact information link right there on their front page. And the reason I say that is like mine and many others, and I learned this from other people, under my contact information link, I have a full portfolio set up of all my social media presences, how to reach me, history, products and services. I've got the whole shang boot, as it were, all under one link. So again, I would encourage people, be simpler, faster, better in your research and go to people's contact information link and take a look at what they've got there. You will be amazed how many portfolios have everything you need to make a really good conversation connection with the person. So that's my little simpler, faster, better tip. Not used by many people at all. I'm not sure why, but that's what I find.
Yeah, LinkedIn can be a great tool there. And I checked, we are connected on LinkedIn. So
yes, we are. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I'm not sure if I'm not with you, Doug, I'll find you. So
all right.
So this has been great. Lots of good advice as always, and excellent conversation. And once again, for those of you who are looking at the thing behind me and saying, "Gosh, I wish I could schedule my 3 months," I can't necessarily help you with your budget because my system is weird and arcane. Talk to Doug about budgeting because he's better at than I am. But if you want to be able to do this, then I'm doing the Plan 3 months in 2 hours session at this Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern. And you can go to somewhere. I've got the banner for this. There it is, megaconnector.com, which when I found that was available, I'm like, I need that.
Oh, I love it. I love that title, man. How makes simpler, faster, better, huh?
yeah, it's easier to remember than guywhoknowsaguy.com, which is this is just a forwarder. But megaconnector.com, how do you forget that? You go there, there's a big blue button that takes you to the Plan 3 hours in 2 months event, and for just $97 you can plan your entire quarter in 2 hours. It might be 3 hours. I don't know how long it last take. It took me a little over 2 hours, but I figure plan 3 months in 3 hours doesn't sound as good. So yeah, take a little marketing artistic license, and if they got a problem with it, they can not come, whatever. So thank you everyone for being on the show. This has been great, and see you all in the audience next week.
Yeah, great participation. Thanks. I love the liveness of live streams, where people network in the comments and ask questions. Good stuff.
Yeah. This is the best engagement I've seen in a while. So hopefully this is a sign for 2023 that we're going to have more engagement.
Oh, it will be. Yeah.
So I did switch my email provider. I'm using MooSend now, and that's where I sent the announcement out. So I wonder if more people saw it because I have a better email system.
Maybe. Yeah.
Could be.
Never know.
Anyway, we're done. I'm hitting the button. Thanks for watching.